Well, the inventory itself is critical. One of the biggest issues around the market at the moment is the fact that we're trying to protect an asset. You have a £200,000 or £300,000 house, and of course you're having other people moving in, and all the legislation around that is there to protect the tenant and the landlord, but predominantly around the tenant. Because one of the things you have to look after is the condition of the property. Because if you have a property that deteriorates quite quickly, then you've got a problem on your hands. And one of the biggest issues that happens is that in 2007 deposit schemes came in. When the deposit schemes came in, they basically said, look, Mr. Landlord, you can no longer just hold on to the money. You've got to put it into a scheme. And you know what? If the tenant has an issue around that, and if they put a complaint in and say that they disagree with what you're trying to deduct from them at the end, then we need you to prove it. Now, the only form of evidence that is available in this market is an inventory. It's not only an inventory; it's an inventory that is signed and that is checked through with the tenant. And at the end of it, it is a checkout that's carried out where we register the change between the start and the end. And that, of course, needs to be done independently because at the end of the day we have no axe to grind. But one of the most important things about inventories is that actually we're trying to stop it going to adjudication. That's the critical thing. So it's the devil's in the detail. You know, one of the greatest things that we'll mention in the market is that the outcome of your tenancy is determined at the start, not at the end. And that inventory has to be quality. It really does. And you mentioned date stamping, you mentioned photography. It's all important, but it's the quality of the people that are getting the information for you. They know what they're looking for. They can collate the information quickly and go for the detail that's important. At the end of the day, you know, I think one of the biggest costs at the end of a tenancy is the void. If you can't get somebody straight in, straight after because your house is dirty and it's cleaning, you've got to pay out for the cleaners, you struggled out to get your money back from the tenant because you didn't prove it was like that in the first place, and now you've got 3 weeks to sort it all out, and actually you've lost 3 weeks worth of rent. Well, hey, you know, you suddenly lost yourself, you know, a good few £100 for the sake of spending whatever it was on getting a quality inventory done in the first place.
Do you think landlords kind of undervalue the inventory because they only really have to call on it in the event of a dispute?
Well, I think if in the marketplace, if we look at the letting agency market, which obviously controls a fair share or the majority of the market, the letting agents see the value massively because they understand that actually it's much easier to come to a good negotiated settlement at the end with all the correct documentation, and they see that value because they're dealing with so many properties. I think, as you rightly say, if you've got one property, 1 or 2 or 3 properties, it's difficult to see the value. But you know, one of the things I was talking at a panel yesterday, one of the things that came up, which is really quite an interesting issue, was the fact that if a tenant, for example, tripped over in a property because a carpet was torn and hurt themselves, then who's liable? Well, if the landlord has got an inventory in place to say that carpet was perfect in the first place, whatever, then the landlord's not liable for that. Yeah, unless of course the tenant has told them in the interim, but assuming that hasn't happened. So that in itself, from a landlord's perspective, you know, that's worth your weight in gold. There could be thousands you could be sued for on that basis.
Absolutely.
But let alone, of course, all the intrinsic values of having somebody going out and doing your work for you, running around for you. You don't have to take time out of work to go and go check a tenant in. This all costs time and money and that sort of thing. And this is where a good inventory company becomes absolutely invaluable in terms of managing your time and, of course, the outcome at the end as well.
Absolutely. And just to finish, No Letting Go is one of the leading inventory companies in the UK. Are you looking to digital solutions to take inventories to the next level? Absolutely.
We're a company that's grown very rapidly over the years. At the moment, we're 38 offices and growing. And you know, as an operation, we're always looking at technology. Now, as far as landlords and letting agents are concerned, you're interested in a report that's carried out to a high level of detail and in the output at the end. Now, but what is critical for us to ensure that our clients have access to reports quickly, that the technology that's available now enables us to deliver these reports quickly and effectively, and you know, companies like Imfuna that we're doing some work with. The beauty about what they're doing, of course, is it enables us to draw in some of the latest technology on smartphones, and this has enabled us to balance out the quality of deliveries that we do on site with the technology that's available, and that's exceptional value, I think.